When you beat Arnold's record, he won 70. When you got your eighth, was that sort of like the milestone you set for yourself? I'm going to get eight and I'm going to retire. Was that like a plan that you've created?
Well, I tell you what, it wasn't a plan that I created, but I knew that when I won the eighth Mr. Olympia, that was it. You can't plan to win eight Mr. Olympia. You can't plan to win one Mr. Olympia. You hope to win one. I won the first one, and after that, I said, man, it would be great to do three. Then when I won three, I said, wow, it'd be great to do five. And when I won five, I said, well, it'd be great to tie the consecutive win record. Then I was able to do that. Afterward, I said, well, let's try breaking the record. And after that was accomplished, that was it. That was icing on the cake. It was time to then focus in some other areas of maybe business and planting seeds in other areas.
Do you think you could have won ninth?
My heart was not in trying for nine Mr. Olympias. I felt if my heart was in it, then I think I could have. But, after a while, you as a true champion, you know when it's time to go. You know when you've been blessed with a particular era of time, and it's then time to hand the rings over to somebody else.
So when Ronnie Coleman came in and he won 3 times, 4 times, 5, and then he got 7, were you kind of like, thinking about, well, he might match my record or even beat my record? Were you thinking about that at all?
Well, I was there with Ronnie when he tried to break the record, for his 9th Olympia win. I was there to congratulate him. However, that didn't happen. But my feeling was that anyone that could achieve that level of success and win the Mr. Olympia 8 consecutive times, if they break the record, it's more than deserving of them to do so. Because I know as an athlete how much hard work and dedication that it took, especially in Ronnie's case. When I won my first Mr. Olympia, I was 24 years old. I won the 8th one, I was 31. Ronnie didn't win his first one until he was 35. Think about the type of stress, physical stress, that he put his body under in pursuit of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, it's very, sad to see what's happening to Ronnie right now. He went through a lot of surgeries and he's temporarily unable to walk right now. And a lot of people blame his bodybuilding career on that. What do you think about that?
Well, Ronnie is one of the greatest of all times, as far as mass is concerned. I don't see anybody ever being able to match Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie was different. He's a total different kind of a body, a total different kind of a person. As gladiators, and that's what a sport guys are. We're gladiators. We fight to the bitter end, and we deal with the consequences of whatever they may be. Back in the Roman days, it was fight to the death. Well, that's what we do. We just do it on the stage until we can't do it anymore. He would not have been satisfied being less than what he's been able to achieve. So I think Ronnie is happy with what he's been able to accomplish, and he's willing to deal with the circumstances of that, as all athletes in all sports. It just happens to be bodybuilding. All athletes, at the end of the day, we do have to look at our wounds because our bodies have been traumatized.
So it seems like today, bodybuilders are kind of get to that level much older. You know what I'm saying? Like in the 30s to late 30s, even. Seems like the body's mature like a little bit later in this specific sport. But back then, Arnold was young. Obviously, you were very young as well. Why did it shift or change recently?
It's just hard to say. I think what happens ever so often, nature creates that person that's different, that's unique. Arnold was a freak of nature. I was a freak of nature. Sergio Olivier was a freak of nature. Ronnie Coleman was a freak of nature. Jay Cutler was a freak of nature. When you look at what's happening, what happens in certain generations, time gives and creates people like that. It doesn't happen all the time.
When you retired, did you, what kind of, I guess, inner mind did you have about the sport, and did you leave in a positive note, or were you kind of wanted to distance yourself also, and in many ways lost faith in the sport?
No, I've always loved bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding now. Ever since I was 6 years old, I wanted to be Hercules and Samson, and bodybuilding was my way to live that fantasy. The title of Mr. Olympia, the ANPC National Champion, the IFBB World Championship allowed me to be successful in several other areas of my life. I was appointed by President Bill Clinton to be the chairman on the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. I received accolades from different states, keys to the city, a lot of different areas. I've had shows on ESPN, the Trinity Broadcast Network, Sports South. So I've trained some of the greatest athletes in the world: Evander Holyfield, Gary Sheffield, Shannon Sharp, Steve Harvey. Bodybuilding has given me an audience. Had it not been for my Mr. Olympia titles in that world in which I come from, then maybe none of this would have been possible.
Do you follow bodybuilding today?
Yeah, I have to. It's a must.
What do you think about the constant criticism of basically bodybuilders getting way too big? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, you and Ronnie Coleman are already pretty big, but it seems like the criticism now is that they're getting progressively bigger and bigger and bigger. What is your take on that?
Big with balance and symmetry, it's no problem. I mean, I weighed 254 pounds, but I had a 32-inch waist. Just so that the lines and the beauty of the physique remain there, there's no problem, because that is the very thing that drew the general public to want to look like us. The balance, the beauty of the physique, the way you look athletic in your clothes. Everybody wanted to look like a bodybuilder, but where the sport is sort of taking a turn now is beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and the judges judge what they see. I feel that what is recently taking place, with the classic physique division, which is really they say old school bodybuilding, it has made a comeback now because the general public wanted to see more of that. And that's where I come from. That's where Arnold come from. That's where Frank Zane come from. That's where Rich Gaspari, Lee Labrada, Muhammad Makawe, the Robbie Robinson, the most beautiful physiques in the world come from that. And we had to build our physiques in such a way that the symmetry and the balance was always the main focal point. It wasn't all about mass and size.
When people say the greatest of all time in bodybuilding, right away, most people would say Ronnie Coleman. Now, you won the same amount of Olympias as him. Do you get offended that they right away say his name?
Well, can nobody be the greatest of all time, except for Muhammad Ali? He was the greatest of all time. You have to look at things in the context of the era. Arnold had his era. Frank Zane had his era. I had my era. Dorian Yates had his era. Ronnie Coleman had his era. I am the only 8-time undefeated Mr. Olympia.
That is true.
In the first at the age of 24 and retired at the age of 31. So that haven't been that haven't been duplicated.
You're the obvious contender to be called the greatest. I mean, I would say, but that's what I'm saying. Would you get offended when people actually say him? Or does it matter to you? Does it bother you at all?
Oh no, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I give Ronnie what credit, because there's not another mass monster like Ronnie Coleman, period. But there was not another Mr. Olympia that sported the 32-inch waist at 254 pounds like Lee Haney either. Woo! So, it all depends. It's all about the era. All of us as Mr. Olympia have our fans. We have our following. So no, you can't get offended, because number one, I got all the respect for Ronnie, respect for Arnold. All of us enjoyed doing what we did. We shared ourselves with the world, and hopefully it made the world a better place and gave people a reason to cheer. So, man, there's nobody being offended, man. I love Ronnie. I love all the guys that is part of my world, and bodybuilding is my world.
Tune into Generation Iron Podcast with Kai Green every Wednesday.
And a lot of people don't understand the work that it takes, and it's a lot of work ethic. Mm-hmm. You don't just, like I said, slap your name on a brand and think that it's going to be big. Mm-hmm. There's R&D, finding the right people on your team to work with you to make it happen. And that's what basically I did to get Gaspari, on top.